yesterday and this afternoon, whereby we have started the budget debate and gone into committee. And I felt it important that after yesterday being the first day of budget debate, that we help frame what we found as we, yesterday, myself and the Honorable Scott Pearman spent the full day in debating public works and legal affairs. And so while the information is very fresh in our minds, I think it's important to you, Bermuda, that you hear from us on how we feel about what we have found thus far. Of course, there will be more to speak of as we go more into the budget debate. But I think this is probably the most important time, and I know that this is the most important time for Bermuda, where a plan is laid out by our government to speak to the issues of the country and how they plan on addressing it. It is the opposition, the One Bermuda Alliance's job to take a look at that plan and to also give our thoughts and ideas on where we are and to ask the questions that you don't get to ask. And quite frankly, now that we have taken a look for public works in particular, we have an infrastructure challenge. We have an infrastructure problem on our hands. Public works consists of parks, lands and buildings, works and engineering, and also Bermuda housing. And as we went through all of those heads, I'm going to highlight 3 or 4 things that were a theme to me that we found to be interesting, concerning, some things good. Quite frankly, we had a wholesome debate. But as we enter on in the rest of the week, and I don't have a prepared speech up here, I don't need that. It feels as if we are in a race to zero. The government is acting out of desperation. It appears as if the only inspiration that this government has is desperation. Everything is falling apart, and so we have a budget that has not laid out clearly how we are going to fix the challenges that we do have. You cannot come to Bermuda and say, listen, we're going to give you light bulbs to fix the challenges that you are having. That is not satisfactory. In fact, no one's asked for light bulbs. And so we need to set the record straight on where we plan on going with the budget. The themes that I found throughout the budget debate yesterday, considering public works, was this: infrastructure is a problem. And the number one complaints that they are receiving is about the roads. Potholes, bumpy roads. You're riding on them every day. And if I use an example, when I was coming up 16, riding on my bike, 2 things I did when I was on the road. I avoided those metal grids that you see in the road, because you ride over that, you can get a flat tire. Also, potholes, because if you ride into one of those, not only do you get a flat tire, but you get road rash at best. So this has to be fixed, guys. We know that we're having challenges with our roads. We need to address these issues, and we did talk about them yesterday. The second theme that I saw through the budget yesterday was this. There was a theme of every line item that I saw with an increase. The increase all referred to staffing. You go through the line items, and I would see, okay, we're spending $700,000 more. Most of that was going towards staffing. And then the third was the Bermuda Beach Resort. This is the old Grand Atlantic that was put into place 12, 13 years ago for low-cost housing. And we still have nothing to speak of that has been completed there. The PLP government started that project. The only time that it got an injection of revenue was when the America's Cup was here, that the One Bermuda Alliance put into place. And that place was full. It was housed. Here we are still now, paying out. And we have no clear answer as to when this project is going to end. We know that it is Hilton that is the resort that is going to, the company that's going to be running it. But we have no clear idea on where we are as far as the closing of that particular project. But yet again, the Premier wants to build another low-cost housing up at Morgan's Point. It just doesn't end, guys. If you can't finish one from 13 years ago, how are we going to build one today, especially with increased cost? The fourth thing that I saw, and that was paramount out of the Public Works headquarters and all of the heads, was that no one told the public, and had I not asked the question, no one told the public that all fees within Public Works are going up by 5%. You never heard that in a brief from anyone. But yesterday in the questioning period, we come to find out that all fees, so some of you are getting water from government piped to your home, 5% increase is coming at the end of March 31st this year. And then 5% increase on all other fees outside of water as well. So if you're camping and all of these kinds of things, you can expect that it is going to cost you 5% more. And so again, I say, if we are going to increase the cost for Bermudians, we all know groceries cost you more. Your rent is going up. All these fundamentals to survival in Bermuda continue to go up. But yet, we do not see significant revenues for this country going up to stem the tide. You cannot say, okay, well, we're going to cut taxes by $6 million and also raise revenue by $6 million. You're at a standing point. It's a holding point. The OBA, when it was government, realized it needed to raise revenues significantly because people are in trouble. They are in trouble. And when the middle class of Bermuda continues to erode, yes, we have a two-state Bermuda, the rich and the poor. And this government spoke and campaigned on the fact that there are two Bermudas, and they are perpetuating the two Bermuda problem. And it needs to be fixed. And so with that in mind, those are just my opening remarks. There are other things I'm sure that you'll have questions on, but those were the themes that stood out to me. Number one, roads. We need to do something about it. And with those roads, we saw that this ministry got $6 million more. But when we went through the budget, only $2 million is being awarded to asphalting and pavement. Now, if you listen to the minister, he did say that he believes it's probably around $200,000 per mile. So I did ask the question, and the minister was very good in our debate yesterday and giving answers, but of course he didn't have enough time to finish giving them. If you do the calculation quickly, okay, you got $2 million. Well, all right, so what, we're going to it's only 10 miles that we're going to pave, approximately? It's not going to work. We from Somerset, Dockyard, to St. David's, not St. George, to St. David's. It's tough. It's tough driving on the roads. I took my bike to get serviced. A $2,500 bike I bought a couple of years ago. I got a flat tire. I pick it up and I said, well, look, service the whole bike, get it all fixed up. $700, guys, for a $2,500 bike. The costs have gone through the roof. I can't blame where I'm taking the bike, and the cost. We need to make sure salaries are being paid. The only solution to it is raising revenue, guys. Bermuda, you must understand. Where is PLP's America's Cup? They have casted that thing in a shadow, which brought $300 million to the table. And when the reports came out to substantiate by our professional services, the big boys, the KPMGs and the PwCs, the report said, yes, this was a financial huge success, but it gets casted in the shadow by our government. So I say to PLP, where is your America's Cup? Your people are drowning. And the pace that we are going to continue to see the emigration of our people like you've never seen before. It's just ramping up, guys. People have options and they will take them when they're put in a corner. And so that's my spiel. If you want to ask any questions thereafter, we'll go to questions, but maybe we'll do questions first. Okay, yes.
If you want me to go first. Okay. You mentioned potholes.
Yes.
So what would you do differently and where would you get the money from?
Where would we get the money from? Again, I mentioned that we need to raise revenues. This ministry received $6 million increase in their budget. So if you take that $2 million, you divide it into that 6, I would raise, that's the major concern. at least half of that must go to the roads. If that's your major complaint that you're receiving, put your money where your mouth is. You got to fix this situation. That's what I would do. I would put more money to the roads.
How would you raise revenues though in that context?
Well, that's a different case. Listen, you understand budgeting. You've been around for a while. You know, nothing is in isolation here. What we believe, the way that this ministry should raise revenue, and I've been talking about it for at least 4 years. There's a fundamental difference between us and government when it comes to buildings. We have about 700 buildings. The government owns about 700 buildings. What has to happen is this. When we were government, we thought about it and we said, we can't maintain these buildings. They're literally falling down around us. So we decided, well, we need to sell off some of this real estate. Why is government having 700 buildings when we could give that to the private sector? I mean, that could go to low-cost housing in a heartbeat. So the first time that we put out a sale for property, and that was the Harrington Sound Post Office. Within months, it was gone for $700,000, and I think it was some $780,000, somewhere to that effect. We need to sell off some of these properties, and what the Public Works Department can do to help raise revenue is not raise revenues by increasing fees, as you just found out, but with these properties, sell them. There are people who right now will buy them and come up with a plan so that it also addresses the housing shortage that it continues to talk about for low-cost housing. We can do that. If you're going to put out a mortgage plan to help people to buy homes, why not give them the opportunity to take over some of these dilapidated buildings that we do have and house people in them? Raising revenue, easy.
Of the 700 buildings, how many would you sell and how much would you raise?
So there was a report that was done, and I'm sure that it needs to be updated. Back some time ago, I believe in that report, the first tier showed at least 2,000 buildings that could be sold off to residential at the time. And I remember viewing that report. I don't know where it is right now. Certainly, you know, we're not privy to that information, but half of that, 12 of those buildings sold at $500,000 is a windfall for this government because it needs it.
Why do you think the government isn't doing that now then? If they've got 700 buildings?
Because we asked. Their philosophy too is to lease them. Leasing takes time, and Bermudians don't have time. They're drowning now.
Yeah.
You know, they're not grasping for air, Sean. They're drowning.
So you have to wait for those leases to end before you can sell them then?
No, the buildings are not being leased. They're going to put them up for lease.
Right. Okay. On fees, do you think the government was underhand then in the way that it's handled the fee issue, raising fees? Do you think that they were deliberately underhand, keeping it quiet?
Well, listen, I know that for media, it's great to have some catchphrases like, you know, they were underhanded and the likes. What I'm telling you is that you didn't know about it. And if I hadn't asked the question, you wouldn't know about it until you went to go camping or you looked at your bill. Oh, my bill's 5% higher. So you can classify it without whatever term you like to classify it. But I'm telling you, you've got something on your hands that is new and you weren't told about it.
But do you think it was wrong of them not to make people aware of that?
I can't speak to the government.
I'm the opposition. What do you think?
I just told you what I thought.
But you didn't say.
I just told you what I thought.
Do you think it was wrong of them not to be more upfront about it?
Listen, governments need to be transparent. The PLP government has spoken to the fact that and rode on the ride of the horse of transparency in elections to be more transparent. They could have been more transparent about it.
Okay, we're talking about the budget. Of course, a bit of tension in your own party last few days.
Yes.
Do you think that Mr. Simons is still the best leader for the party after what's happened?
We're not going to discuss party matters here. Certainly, I have already spoken to you about how I felt. He did the honorable thing. I wish that politicians were more transparent and did the honorable thing. When they felt that they needed to correct something, they should correct it. How many times have you seen PLP retract on matters that they know they are wrong on? You don't see it. You have a leader amongst the One Bermuda Alliance who came out and was transparent and said, listen, you know, I probably could have handled this one particular issue better. When did doing the right thing become wrong? What are we focusing in on here? We got people who can't pay the rent, keep the lights on, and we're worrying about Cole Simons, the honorable member? What is our focus here? It's not humanitarian at all. It's a quick fix to the media. And I'm telling you, media, you're on the wrong road. Let's just face it, guys. When I used to do press conferences years ago, this room was packed. Packed under One Bermuda Alliance. With this PLP government, look at what it's dwindled down to. The media is under attack. You want to know why? No revenue in this country. No revenue in this country. Your jobs, media, are at stake. Your jobs are at stake. And you need to hold this government to hand. The One Bermuda Alliance is taking the budget and holding them to task. You need to do more. So concentrating on Cole Simons, when he's been transparent, and whatever the source is that you have, I mean, obviously you got a good source. Go back to your source. They'll answer it for you.
You said that he did the right thing, but he only did the right thing because he did the wrong thing first. So do you have full confidence in him as leader?
Listen, any leader that steps forward, any leader, I've been there many times, is going to make mistakes. The right thing to do is to step up with integrity and do the right thing. Mm-hmm. No one is immune to making mistakes, including the media.
I know you haven't said that you have full confidence in him.
I have full confidence. He got up and he said, listen, I made a mistake. I have full confidence, and that's why I said he's an honorable man. What this party decides going forward is up to the party, and then we'll let you know.
Friends of Jerry and Richardson have told me that he's considering asking Mr. Simons to resign. What would your advice be to Mr. Richardson?
I think that I've already spoken to Darian about his steps going forward on how he feels about things, and that's between him and I.
Do you want do you think that Mr. Simons should now resign after his public apology to the rest of you and his
decision for the
judgment?
That's a decision for the One Bermuda Alliance. I think what you probably should concentrate in on is maybe there should be some resignations on the PLP. That's where you need to concentrate.
Yeah, but we're talking about the OBA, aren't we? So obviously, do you think he should resign or not?
I think I've already answered that question.
I don't think you have actually. Should he resign or not?
I've already answered what I'm going to answer, Sean.
You haven't answered.
You can't get water out.
I know you haven't answered.
Well, let me just set the record straight. Let me just set the record straight. Just because you ask a question, Sean, does not demand the respect of an answer. And you need to know that.
I think asking whether you have confidence in your leader and whether you think he should resign or not is actually a very proper and important question.
I just told you,
Politicians should answer.
I just said to you that it is clear to me that he's done the right thing, and I trust in his judgment.
Thanks, Mr. Cannonier. My understanding is the Public Works Department right now, about a third of all posts are filled, so essentially 2/3 of the work is not being done. Do you support more investment in staffing to make sure that they can do their job?
Yeah, that's a real challenge. The question is really about efficiency. I think it's two things: efficiency and accountability. If we're not being accountable, then we can't be efficient. And one of the things that came out of the debate yesterday was that we have a new digital and software packages that will make life a lot easier when it comes to being more efficient within public works. That has been a very slow slog to get to that point. And so when it comes to staffing, certainly there are positions that need to be filled. I have no qualms about that. What I have qualms about is if you've been given a windfall of $6 million and your major complaint is getting roads done, then let's see more concentration being put on that area. Staffing, of course, is always one of the solutions. But if you get the staffing and you're not being accountable, then people complaining, they just see workers on the road just standing there. And that's what you're hearing. We need more accountability and more efficiency put in place. So I have no problem if we have to increase staffing. My challenge is who's holding them accountable to make sure the job is get done.
Well, I understand that there's a low morale because of that lack of staffing. People are stressed.
Sure.
As a OBA government, what alternatives would you look at?
Well, again, it's about accountability. I think I just gave it and being more efficient. We have to tie down on our efficiency here. Bermuda, when it comes to staffing, you know, I think it's always been thought that the One Bermuda Alliance is just going to come in and cut all these people out. In 2012, when we won the election, you know, that was the theme coming from people and from the from the government, PLP government. Oh, well, you let these OBA people in, they're going to take those jobs from you. We didn't do that. It was all a PLP media fluff that we were going to do that. We did do it by attrition, reduce the numbers, and we tried to put in efficiencies. Remember when immigration and work permits was a problem? What did we do? Right? We hired some people to come in, got some staff, and fixed it.
Looking to the ag show, the department has decided to, I guess, absorb the cost and organization of the show this year. It was cut under the OBA under austerity. I mean, we're in a similar situation right now financially. Do you think it was wise of the government to absorb the show?
Yeah, and that's a tricky one, right? I mean, I am in full support of the ag show. I'm glad to see I'm glad to see that the money was put there for the ag show. Again, the ministry had $6 million more. He's got to decide on where he's going to disperse those things. The reason that the One Bermuda Alliance had to take the route that it did is because the Minister of Finance came to cabinet and said, listen, guys, I can't pay staff. We don't have any money. Imagine a month being government and you find out there's no money to pay staff. So we recognized the urgency of now that we needed to fix that situation, get back in front of the banks, and then come up with something that was going to raise revenue very quickly. So I'm glad to see the ag show being supported and back on the road. I am.
And just lastly, you asked the government, where's your America's Cup? Obviously, we have Sail GP, tons of other sporting events.
Yes.
Do you still hold those as value in your mind?
Who started it? The One Bermuda Alliance. The whole reason we have GP is because of the America's Cup. What we should have is the America's Cup again. We can't allow rhetoric in this country to throw away top-tier billionaires and millionaires who came here to spend their money to run away and not come back. And that's what we heard, rhetoric, complete rhetoric. Well, the hypocrisy of it was PLP people were out there making money off of America's Cup. We need America's Cup back, and they're willing to come back. We just need to get our act together.
Thank you.
Moving over to MP Scott Pearman. MP Cannonier.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the media. Thank you to my colleague, MP Cannonier, for addressing you on yesterday's Works and Engineering budget debate. I'm here to talk about the legal affairs debate that was held late yesterday afternoon and into the evening. I do have a few prepared remarks and then I will take questions. So yesterday's legal affairs budget debate shows very clearly how a new OBA government would do things differently to fix Bermuda. 4 years ago, the opposition laid out a creative plan to increase revenue in Bermuda's court system. The OBA proposed a tiered system for court fees in our commercial courts. Under this OBA proposal, expensive commercial cases will pay larger court fees to match the higher value of commercial claims. This OBA solution would raise much needed revenue for Bermuda's struggling justice system. And what you should know is that the PLP didn't disagree with this OBA plan. No, they didn't disagree. They just simply, for 4 years, failed to deliver. Repeatedly, for 4 years. The PLP has promised that changes are progressing, yet nothing has happened. And yesterday, in the legal affairs budget debate, we highlighted how our family court Our family court needs increased support. Now, the minister bravely admitted to Parliament yesterday that there has been a 25% increase in child cases last year. Let me repeat that. A 25% increase in the number of cases last year involving Bermudian children. We all need to pay attention to that, folks. That's huge. Our commercial courts are held in extremely high regard, both locally and internationally. And our commercial courts deal with multi-billion-dollar cases. And so our commercial court fees must be harnessed to better support our family court. It just makes sense. Likewise, our criminal justice system urgently needs focus and support. When Bermuda's top prosecutor, the main person responsible for putting the bad guys in jail, warns that our criminal justice system is, quote, under attack, we need to pay attention. We need to listen. She knows what she's talking about. The top prosecutor is right to point out that government cannot simply sit up in the House and pass laws without providing effective funding so that she can do her job and her team can do their jobs. It's been 4 years since the OBA proposed a funding solution for our court system. The OBA has identified specifically how we can harness our commercial courts to get more money to our underfunded family courts and our criminal courts. So the PLP needs to deliver, or the PLP needs to get out of the way. And I will take questions on that. I see Mr. Connolly looking excitedly. Mr. Connolly, before you ask, it is not my intention to give any answers on internal party matters. So you can ask, and I can refuse to answer. But I really would prefer, before you do, to talk about the legal affairs budget debate.
Completely. Free press.
Ask away. We'll go.
The rise to 25% of children being involved in cases, what specifically would you do then to bring that figure down or change it?
Well, what I think we need more money allocated to our family courts. And I've identified 4 years ago and repeatedly where that money can come from. Because when you have a multi-billion-dollar piece of commercial litigation, it doesn't make sense that the court fees for filings are just the same prices as normal litigation. So if you go and file a summons, say, and that summons is $50, say, for your normal case, say, perish the thought is a divorce case, and it's $50 to file a summons. If you're doing a multi-billion-dollar piece of litigation, the cost of that summons should be linked to the value of the claim. And that's what the UK has done for years, and that's what the OBA has called for 4 years ago, to solve a problem. It won't solve it fully, but it will be a revenue generator for our courts to get more money funneled towards our family court and towards our public prosecution.
How would that, though, putting more money into it, how would that reduce the number of children being involved in cases? Because
the courts have around them support systems, right? There's the court services, there's child and family services. These are woefully underfunded. Now, we're not going to solve problems overnight, but when you don't apply any sufficient budget to the family court, and then Bermudians come in to deal with very difficult issues, such as divorce, such as custody battles, and these courts are underfunded, so the court isn't meeting as often as it should, or there are delays, or you're not getting the correct advice, or people aren't there to help. More money needs to be allocated. And I'm not talking about increasing the budget of the legal services ministry. I'm talking about how you can better allocate resources and how you can raise revenue through increased court fees in the commercial courts, which, as I say, are doing billion-dollar cases. And if you're going to do a billion-dollar case that makes the court clerk run around at the last minute with urgent documents being filed and this and that and the other, I think it's fair to let those people who are taking advantage of Bermuda's excellent commercial court system to pay their fair share and to support the family and criminal courts.
The government last night said that they're allocating $50,000 to efforts to legalize cannabis in that direction. What are your views on that?
Well, my views on cannabis are pretty clear. You know, we voted against the government's cannabis bill not once but twice. I thought and publicly stated that the whole point of the cannabis bill was misguided. It was a corporate cannabis bill that was about a single source importer. It was about money. It wasn't about freedom to smoke cannabis if that's what you wish to do. It was completely about money. It was used as a device, in my opinion, to try to pick a fight with the UK, and I've said that publicly before, and I repeat that. And it's unfortunate that the PLP in its drive towards independence can't just come out straight and say they want independence. Instead, they dress it up with niceties about constitutional reform, and they pick battles with the UK, who frankly helped us a great deal with vaccines.
What about this allocation of 50,000 now then? What do you think about that?
Where's 50,000 going to get you these days? Cup of coffee?
You would accept though that legalizing cannabis is popular on the island?
Well, we have medical cannabis, and the OBA is on record as to medical cannabis. We are on record as to decriminalization. Where I think we were very concerned was the thoughtlessness that was involved in that bill. There were so many things wrong in that bill, and if you want to know what I think are the specific things that are wrong in that bill, I'd refer you to the Hansard of the debate, where I led the debate for the opposition, and I stated at least 15 or 20 different aspects of that bill. I'll tell you one, though, in particular. They were talking about people who want to grow their own cannabis in their house, but they were going to give the police the right to enter that house without a warrant. I mean, it's just crazy. That was one aspect of the bill, completely flawed. So that's just an example, and I'd refer anybody who wishes to go back to the Hansard on the points that we set out on the cannabis bill.
I've asked your leader, Mr. Simon, for this, and Curtis Dickinson as well. Have you ever used cannabis?
I have.
Yeah.
I have, yeah. In my youth, when I was young and foolish, I was young and foolish. I don't currently and haven't for years. But yeah, look, cannabis is a part of our life, and there are people who wish to use cannabis, and it's not my goal as a politician to stand in their way. What I think was ill-conceived was the PLP proposal in the bill. It was all about trying to get money into somebody's hands. It was about corporate cannabis. It was about a singular monopoly into the island. It was not about allowing those who wish to use cannabis to do so in the privacy of their own homes, to grow as they wish. And as I say, the OBA was very supportive of decriminalization. We don't wish to see people go to jail for cannabis use. And the OBA is perfectly understanding and is on the record on medical marijuana use.
The mishandling of the budget by your leader has now made people kind of see you as the party of capital authorization, hasn't it?
I think the leader was extremely clear when he came out and clarified that he had made that statement without the support of his caucus and his party. You asked me the question yesterday, I answered it, and I think it was in print in your story this morning. In terms of the budget reply was on the whole very sound. Cole Simons, as my colleague MP Cannonier said earlier, is an extremely honorable man. He put a lot of hard work and effort into that budget. The sad part about budgets and budget replies is that nobody really reads them. The sad part about Parliament is that we go up and we try to debate them and no one really listens. And that's why we're here today, so that you actually know what happened yesterday in Parliament. I'm not faulting the media. Sometimes the media is there, and I thank you for that. But Bermudians need to be more aware of what is happening in the political system, because it impacts on all of us, right? The budget matters. Economics matters. Economics matters because it's how much money you get in your pocket. Economics matters because it's how much the government has for social services. And when David Burt's budget includes a ticking time bomb, where IB is upset and is discussing whether they should stay or go, it was your own newspaper who referred to the goose that lays the golden eggs. We must not kill that goose. During the pandemic, IB is the only thing that kept this island surviving. And we have to appreciate that. So when IB comes out and tells the Premier he's wrong, he needs to listen. And we need to listen, all of us, not just the Premier, all of us.
Why did Mr. Simons apologise to you over his handling of the budget?
Okay. Mr. Simons did not apologize to me over his handling of the budget. Mr. Simons addressed his party and his caucus over a statement that he made without consultation. And he was right to do so. And I said he was right to do so, and I commend him for it. And I think MP Cannonier spoke earlier. When was it wrong to do the right thing? He came up, he made a mistake, he said he made a mistake, he reversed his position. We stand with him. He was right to reverse his position. We must not bring back a travel authorization form, certainly not, and nor should we have travel authorization fees. Why not? Because we can't put barriers up to entry into Bermuda. We desperately need to restore our tourism industry, so we can't have barriers there. And we need more people here. You know, you asked about revenue. Well, one of the best ways to have revenue on this island is to have a broader tax base. We need more people to bear the tax burden, more people paying tax. We don't need more taxes on a shrinking population. We need a growing population so the population as a whole pays less.
Finally, as I asked Mr. Cannonier, do you have full confidence in Mr. Simons as OBA leader?
Not only do I have full confidence in our leader, I would venture to say that any other of my 5 parliamentary colleagues would make a better premier than the current premier we have.
Not even you.
I'm talking about colleagues, my colleagues. Thank you, Sean.
Jasmine.
Thank you, Mr. Connolly, I should say. Ms. Patterson.
Thanks, Mr. Pearman. Justice One Wolf has repeatedly called for reform in terms of mental health care for those who are incarcerated and find themselves in the legal system. Would the OBA facilitate some recourse for inmates who cannot be adequately taken care of at MWI and Westgate?
That's a really complicated question, and I'm not saying that just to duck it. First of all, Justice One Wolf knows of what he speaks. He is on the front line every day dealing with the court system. He was senior magistrate for a while, and he sees the underbelly of our community and our humanity. And so when he speaks, we should listen. Mental health is a significant challenge on this island. Some of that is connected with abuse issues, alcohol and substance abuse as well. Some of it's not. And the support system for mental health is woefully inadequate. So it is something that is very deserving of our focus and attention. It is very deserving of people coming together and trying to come up with solutions. So do I support him being an advocate for the issue? Absolutely, I do. Do I have a particular solution in mind at this moment in time? No, I don't. But I recognize the problem. It is something that we internally are looking at. We do have a specific group in the party who've been looking at issues of mental health and of family issues and child issues.
Thank you. Speaking of, you mentioned substance abuses. There's high instances of impaired driving. We have 2 road deaths so far. 18 months is qualification off the roads, and the valve line clearly isn't working in the court system. Would you support reform to our drink driving laws?
I think that the judges are best placed to inform the legal fraternity if they feel that there are changes necessary to the laws in a particular area. I also don't like the idea of parliamentarians who are not necessarily experts in various fields dictating to experts what they should and shouldn't do. If the judiciary and the Bar Council, Bar Association as a whole calls for that, or if CADA says that we need changes, I would certainly listen and consider those changes. But I'm loath to be a sort of, I know best, we're going to tell you from the top down. I'm more of a bottom up kind of guy. Let's hear what people think is necessary. I am pleased to see I got stopped the other night with everyone driving, going through a stop, police stop, and I was pleased to see that. And I think I'd like to see more of that. Road deaths are avoidable. People drive terribly. We heard about the potholes, but it's not just the potholes, it's people's attitudes to driving on the roads. I know that one of the things in the throne speech that we praised from the government was more training for people on motorbikes, and that's been a long time in coming, perhaps too long. Anyway, I'm getting slightly off the legal affairs budget, but anything on the budget you would like me to address?
I think that covers it. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, ladies and
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Mr.
Appreciate it.
Media.
Thanks.